So we're here with John A. Russo, the co-writer of the original Night of the Living Dead. And John, I wanted to ask you, what do you think it is about the zombie genre that's so popular even 50 years after the fact?
I always say that zombies weren't heavyweight fight material like vampires or werewolves. I mean, they weren't very scary. When I was a kid and I saw zombie movies, zombies just kind of shambled around, grabbed somebody by the throat, whatever, but it wasn't scary. So when we made them flesh eaters, then that seemed to do the trick. It probably goes back to the memory of our species when we were prey and had to be afraid of being devoured. Beyond that, you have to be afraid of coming back as one of them.
Right.
Which nobody wants to do. I don't think, anyway. Sometimes I consider it.
We see a lot of people dressed up as zombies and, zombie walks and everything like that, so you never know. Well, that's great. Thanks very much. So, real schoolers, here we are. I'm sitting in my director's chair, so you know what that means. It's another one of those, we're going to learn something about film episodes. If you've seen some of my really early episodes, you've seen that I did one about the meaning of the vampire, meaning looking at cinematic metaphors that vampire films present. So, I had to do this one. I have a love-hate relationship with these films. I have to do one on the meaning of the zombie. Hopefully I don't have nightmares.
Things have been okay for me, except that I'm a zombie now. I really wish you'd let us in. Think I speak for all of us when I say I understand why you folks might you're all gonna die screaming. All we wanna do is eat your brains.
We've all faced it before, and chances are high school wasn't the only time, but staying an individual, it takes the most personal character, and it's one of the toughest things to do when you're growing up.
All we wanna do is eat your brains.
That's especially not easy to do in today's society filled with media. Everything's telling us how to look a certain way, how to talk a certain way. So being an individual and fighting against all that influence, again, is a very tough thing. Facing down an army of undead monsters ready to rip you apart is a feeling that people can actually relate with. Not on the horror aspect, but in the sociological aspect. The fact that we feel outnumbered when we feel that maybe something is the right way to do it, and yet others, maybe hundreds or thousands of others, are telling us to do it a different way.
Is it clear?
No.
How many?
Lots.
Now, George A. Romero, the godfather of zombie films, compares this feeling to one other aspect in North American culture: consumerism. The most prevalent example of that is in both the original and the remake of Dawn of the Dead, where the Walking Dead actually congregate in front of the mall.
What are they doing? Why did they come here?
Some kind of instinct, memory, what they used to do. This was an important place in their lives.
Saying that this behavior is so ingrained in our mind that even zombies, who are such base creatures that are only concerned about consuming flesh, apparently are also concerned about still consuming. Even the fact that the survivors go to the mall, it's almost like we're saying the only way we can survive is if we still hang on to consumerism, if we still buy stuff. These people believe that everything was at the mall. Food, shelter, protection, whatever we need, it's at the mall. They didn't go to a church. They didn't try and go to the army station earlier in the film. They go to the mall. In these films, it isn't just the undead that lose their sense of identity. It's the survivors, too. They're just as dead inside. Disassociation isn't just about losing who you were. It's not about family and memories and becoming a monster. It's becoming something that you're not. Romero and other zombie filmmakers are trying to show that even if we survive and are not zombies, we're pretty much disassociated from the world that we knew. And that is the most terrifying thing.
We're not unreasonable. I mean, no one's gonna eat your eyes.
It's not difficult to see the visual metaphor of death in the faces of zombies in zombie movies. They are a literal representation of our own future. nothing on the inside, and a gory and bloody exterior. But I think the reason why zombie films really get to me, like I said, it's a love-hate relationship, is the fact that you have to face your fear head on, or heads off. Like many people, I have a fear of death. I mean, look at me. I'm too pretty to die. But it is, and forever will be, the undiscovered country. And the fact is, people will always fear the unknown. And what is more fearful or more unknown than death itself? To have that fear literally coming at you, slowly creeping towards you, is like having the stone-cold hand of death reaching out to get you. And that's why most zombie traditionalists will agree that slow zombies are the best. Fast zombies are great, don't get me wrong. I love 28 Days Later. I love Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead. But fast zombies were made for a 21st century audience. And while I agree that fast zombies do provide a faster paced film and more action and jump scares, which you don't get in a slow zombie film, zombies really have to be like death. They have to be unrelenting, uncompromising, and unstoppable.
Here's an FYI, you're all gonna die screaming.
If you saw my earlier tutorials on the meaning of the vampire, then you saw how I said that at the height of its paranoia, vampire films in the 1990s really spoke to audiences because of the AIDS epidemic and HIV. And the blood relation really spoke to audiences when they saw films like Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. In the 21st century, it's not just HIV and AIDS we have to worry about. We have swine flu, bird flu, mad cow disease, everything that has to do with farm animals. And we even had SARS here in Toronto. And quite frankly, super viruses are becoming more and more prevalent, and it's becoming fairly scary. In 28 Days Later, it's a rage virus. In Resident Evil, for cosmetic purposes, we try and bring skin cells back to life. What does it do? Well, it creates undead hordes. The social commentary is evident. Filmmakers are saying that our end of days will be man-made. It should be no surprise then that in the 21st century, in these films, that zombies are actually created because of something that man tries to do. And it's not just necessarily the idea of a virus. I mean, contagion doesn't have to stop at the bite of a vampire spreading the disease throughout us and creating the undead. It can be the contagion of an idea. In the Canadian film Pontypool, in an original twist on the zombie genre, it's actually words that infect people and turn them into bloodthirsty zombies. In the 21st century, there's so much temptation that really, maybe we're all dead already.
Hell is overflowing, and Satan is sending his dead to us. Why? Because you have sex out of wedlock. You kill unborn children. How do you think your God will judge you? Well, friends, now we know. When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Which brings us to my next point, which is that zombie films are all about survival of the cleanest, as in cleanest souls. Now, zombie films, just like every other horror film, is all about the fact that the good kids are the ones that survive. If you make stupid choices, then you pay for it. The karma effect. Those who make bad decisions in zombie films are no different. They're usually the first or one of the ones to die, and usually in the most graphic nature. Now, you're going to notice something a little different, though. That those who are clean of heart actually get the cleanest death. What I mean by clean death is basically the characters who are of moral character, who are good leaders, who help each other, who don't have sex or drink or make poor decisions, and who are sympathetic, usually get a choice in how they're killed. Take a look at some of the clean characters. They are usually the ones who get to shoot themselves or are shot. And that's to say that a clean death is a quick and painless death instead of being ripped apart by a bloodthirsty horde. And when they kill themselves, it isn't a moment of weakness. It's not a pathetic choice of somebody who's giving up. It's really a way of the cinematic fates, the fates of film, saying that these people have deserved a little peace. Now, the best example of this has to be in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, in the character of Michael, one of the greatest and most noble cinematic characters arguably of all time. He leads his group, he keeps people together, he keeps calm, he tries to make the right decisions, but he listens to everybody else. He punishes those who need punishing, and of course he's there to kill a few zombies. So really, the guy hasn't done anything wrong. And the most sympathetic part is that he actually lost his son before the film even started. I mean, Michael was a guy who did everything in this film, and you can't help but like him the entire time. And he has a dignity throughout the entire film to himself that he even has in death.
We're at an impasse here. Maybe we should compromise.
One of the most terrifying aspects of any zombie film has nothing to do with the monsters outside trying to beat down your door. It has everything to do with the monster within. In a post-apocalyptic world, there are no rules. So really, the survivors are free to be whoever they truly are. And sometimes, that's more of a threat than the zombie willing to bite your neck off. We've already talked about the noble ones, the ones who are willing to do anything, who fight for what they believe in. But what about the ones who only worry about themselves? Zombie films are filled with these bastards. I mean, you think about Don abandoning his wife and 28 weeks later.
Don! Help us!
You think about the power-hungry and generally stupid security guards in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and of course, the misogynistic soldiers in 28 Days Later. Being in a life-or-death situation, you get a chance to show your true self, and it's not just fight or flight. But nothing is a better example of the monster within than the granddaddy of them all, the one that started it all, the original Night of the Living Dead. The character of Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, is, of course, African American. Now, it's not so much political until the end of the film. Ben has to fight for his own survival, not just from the zombies, but for other people within the group that he's trying to help. To show what a stupid world this can be sometimes, he survives the zombie apocalypse. At least, you think he does. Ben is actually killed by humans.
Right between the eyes. Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
It's a tragic and somewhat comical ending just because he survived so much on his own, and it is the stupidity and ignorance of other surviving humans that end up killing Ben. Well, real schoolers, that's it. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you enjoy zombie films as much as I do, and I hope you probably get more sleep than I do after watching a zombie film, and yet I just can't resist. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you don't, I'm going to eat your brains. Brains.
Hey Tom, it's Bob from the office down the hall. It's good to see you, buddy. How have you been? Things have been okay for me, except that I'm a zombie now. I really wish you'd let us in. I think I speak for all of us when I say I understand why you folks might hesitate to submit to our demand. But here's an FYI, you're all gonna die screaming. All we wanna do is eat your brains. We're not unreasonable, I mean no one's gonna eat your eyes. All we wanna do is eat your brains. We're at an impasse here, maybe we should compromise. If you open up the door, we'll all come inside.